Welcome to Tea
and E
with the T. I'm your host, Teresa.
I'm your co-host, Edwin.
And today is part 1 of Diddy's case. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. This episode contains discussion of sensitive topics that may be distressing for some audiences. Please take care while listening, and if these topics are triggering for you, we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. So I don't know if you heard about this situation or this thing that happened on the news. But it happened a while ago. It was like I believe it was like 2022, 2023, probably, no, not 100% sure. But there's a situation that happened at the Trump National Durham, Miami hotel.
Oh, yeah, I did see it.
You saw that?
When Diddy was like dragging or this girl?
No, that's not the situation. We're going to talk about that later on. And I know you're talking about Cassie. But that's not it. This is Trump's hotel in Miami, right? There's this man that was running around in the hotel. So there was kind of like a shootout between this man and the cops inside of Trump's hotel.
Yeah.
This was also during the time of Trump's of the whole president election.
Yeah.
So it was, a lot of things were going on at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But this man, he was basically having the shootout with the cops, and he was screaming out, "Come out, motherfuckers!" And that's what he said, right?
Sounds so
but
weird.
Either way,
you're saying you motherfuckers.
So that's what he was saying to the cops. So he was telling him to come out and all this stuff, and then he runs from the lobby to this other area, and he gets shot. And then he ends up hiding in around where the elevators are at.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the cops catch him and take him in. So this guy, they take him in the interrogation room. They start asking him questions like who you are, what are you doing? Like, why did you decide to just come out and just, have this shootout with us? So basically, long story short, this man, his name was Jonathan Odie. He was arrested for this incident. And during this interrogation, he kept saying things like basically just weird things. He was just talking nonsense. It sounded like he was like on crack, basically. He was just not all there. He was a sex worker for Dancing Bears. So this site. He starts basically stating there's nuclear weapons, that people are gonna start sending him into the U.S. and there's going to be no president in 2 days, basically insinuating that they were going to assassinate Trump, right? And so he was saying things like that. And then he also said that he was from the CIA, that Obama is Osama bin Laden, like all this stuff,
so
right?
He was on crack.
So yeah, it sounded like he was basically on crack. And then he starts saying that he has a settlement with Diddy. So that Diddy and Rick Ross and DJ Khaled.
Yeah, DJ Khaled.
Yeah. Is gay. So he's saying all this stuff, right? And then he also says that he had relations with Cassie and Diddy before. And he has a settlement with Diddy, and that
like an actual court settlement or just between them settlement?
Between them.
Mm-hmm.
Between them. So all this is coming out, and the cops are like, what the heck? Like, how you go from like, talking about Trump to now you're associated with Diddy. So, they start like, asking him questions about Diddy and asking him what he kind of has to do with the situation, right? And he says something about like pink cocaine. He like goes in depth to what Diddy or what he's involved, or the things that he's involved with Diddy, right? And the things that he's seen that Diddy has done.
Who's pink cocaine?
Pink cocaine is the actual substance that they would use to allegedly drug people. So Diddy would allegedly move this pink cocaine, that's what he calls it, and basically allegedly drug people at his parties with it. But there's other substance that they would use to do so. But we will talk about that in part 2. this is going to be part 1. So we're going to talk about basically the early background and the relationship between Kim Porter and Cassie and Diddy.
Kim Porter's the first one.
Kim Porter was Diddy's first wife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She passed away not too long ago, but I will, we will get into that
Natural causes?
situation.
Oh.
We'll get into that situation. We'll talk about, her passing and all this stuff. But I did want to state that it kind of like, you kind of see the gist of Diddy and what he did throughout the years and why he is now in prison and he has, he's in trial
Got
right now.
charges, yeah.
So, and he has many charges against him. So, we're going to start with the early background. I wanted to talk a little bit about him and get to know him a little bit more and where he came from,
Power
how he
valley.
used his power to control people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're going to go in that. This is going to be part 1. And part 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the freak offs in
What's that?
parties. We're going to talk about that in part 2.
That sounds nasty.
So, well, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes down in the freak offs, and there's a lot of. That's why they
Sounds
have a lot
cringy.
of. Yeah, that's why they have a lot of basically why he has a lot of
Fame?
charges against him because of those freak offs.
Mm.
So we'll talk about that. The freak offs I'm gonna talk a little bit about it in the end between him and Cassie, between Diddy and Cassie, because it kind of she kind of gets into these freak offs, but in a different way. So there's the party freak offs, and then there's the freak offs with Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll talk about that in part 2. This one is gonna be a very long series because we have a lot of information to talk about with Diddy. So I'm just gonna start right now with part 1, and then I'll let you know what each part is gonna be from now on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So Diddy. He also goes by Puffy, Puff Daddy, P Diddy,
Puff
obviously,
Daddy.
and Brother Love. Yeah.
Brother Love?
Mm-hmm.
What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he goes by all these names, right? So I'm gonna say Diddy throughout the whole series, but just so that you know, if anything like does come up where somebody says something and they say Puff or Puff Daddy or P Diddy, that we're talking
That's
about
what
him.
that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but his real name is Sean Combs. He was born on November 4th, 1970, and he was born in Harlem, New York. So he's from New York, not too far from us. Diddy was 2 years old when his dad passed away. So his dad was allegedly gunned down in 1972 during a drug deal. But Diddy did not know this. Diddy thought that his father had died in a car accident. His mother told him that his father died in a car accident only because she didn't want him to be involved in those type of situations.
Yeah.
Like she knew that maybe when he grew up, he would probably want to, basically, what is it called? Revenge. He would want revenge. And he would probably get into it and get involved. And so his mom was like, I didn't want that. So I just told him that he passed away in an accident. And he graduated from Mont St. Michael Academy in 1987. And then later on joined Howard University as a business major, but then later left 2 years later. Okay. So Diddy, he's a pretty smart man. I mean, he went through school, but also he's just very business like. He loves business. He loves anything to do with business and anything to do with that, and he's very smart with it. He's very smart with it, and we'll get into it. So after he left, university, he became an intern in Uptown Records in New York. Uptown Records was a very big company back then, at that time. And he rose to VP, so he rose to vice president of the Uptown Records after only a year. So you can already see how hardworking of a man he was. Like, he got to the top in just a year. But then he later got fired in 1993. And so that motivated him to start his own label, which was called Bad Boy Entertainment. Okay. So that's very important because Bad Boy Entertainment became this huge label that everybody, now knows. Bad Boy label had people like...
Sounds cringy.
Bad Boy label. I mean, Bad Boy Entertainment.
Mm.
Yeah, but he created that, but it became big because he had people like Notorious B.I.G. and Craig Mack. So those are really, really big like artists.
Really?
Not just them, they had also Cassie, which later on, becomes his girlfriend. But he also signed Cassie. He signed big artists.
He
Well,
created them big, or they were already big?
he created them big.
Oh
So
wow.
he, like I said, he was a businessman. So
Yeah.
he knew how to get people out. He
Yeah.
knew how to make people famous. He knew
Oh
how to
shoot.
put them out there.
Yeah.
So he's not dumb. Like he's very, very smart. He's
Yeah.
very smart with business.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like in just a few years, like maybe like after 2 years, he was already one of the biggest, labels out there.
Yeah.
People wanted to sign with them and all this stuff because he had Notorious B.I.G., he had Craig Mack, and he had all these big artists, and they became really big later on. So
Mm-hmm.
um eventually people is inspired to want to be like him
Mm-hmm.
and to want to be in this label. So Notorious B.I.G. is a very big has a very big part in his story, allegedly. And we're going to talk about this in part 3, but allegedly Diddy has something to do with his death. I don't know if you know Notorious B.I.G., but he was a really big like rapper back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of was as big as Tupac. I
Oh
don't know if you
wow.
remember or if you ever heard, but Tupac and Biggie is also Notorious
Yeah.
B.I.G. Biggie were very, like, they were kind of going against each other because
So they had beef, kind of.
they had a beef. And there was a lot of there's a lot of just things going on between them, and then also Diddy's involved, and also allegedly Diddy has involvement of Tupac's death as well.
Oh wow.
But we'll talk about that in part 3 and how he has all these,
That's cool.
how he's connected to these deaths, allegedly. Obviously we're not 100% sure, but it just all adds up. So yeah, we'll get back to Notorious B.I.G., but I do want to state that as of right now. But yeah, so he became big, right? Diddy became big because of this label. And so during his industry, this is when he started becoming very controlling. He had this controlling energy. So, the fame was kind of getting to his head,
Yeah.
but also he had the power. He
Yeah.
had the power to be able to be like, hey, go give me a coffee, or hey, you can't put that picture out because I said so, or like,
Yeah.
you gotta delete that, or anything
Yeah. He
anything
had
that
power.
he had the power because he was now big. He
Mm-hmm.
was huge. So, you know during his power and during the industry and during him getting growing in the industry, he started threatening people, like threatening even to kill them.
What?
Yes. So that plays a big part because this was something that he would say a lot.
I'm gonna
He
kill you.
Yeah, he's like, if you don't do this, you will die. Yeah. So a lot of people were scared of him. There's one incident with the Vibe magazine. I don't know if you are familiar with Vibe magazine, but it's a really big, or it was a really big magazine back in the days. Like all big artists would be on the head covers and everything. And this one time, they had a photo shoot with Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
So Diddy had a photo shoot with Vibe magazine, and they had him put like these wings on. They had this idea, and they were like, "Hey Diddy, like we really want you to put these wings. Like we have an idea of how like this cover," and it was a really nice cover, right? And Diddy at first was like, "No, I don't want to do it, blah blah blah." But then eventually he got convinced, and he ended up doing it, and everything was cool. Now, almost like I think 2 or a week before, they were about to release the cover of the magazine, or even the
The
magazine,
magazine itself.
with the cover that they did with Diddy. Diddy was like, "Well, I want to see this cover before you put it out," and they were like, "Well, we can't do that." Like, we're not able to do that. It's like against our violation and all this stuff. And he was like, I don't care. I want to see it. And if I don't see it, I'm going to kill you. And he was like, and they were like, no, like, we can't. Like I said, we can't show you. And he ends up, well, they end up finding out that he's on his way to the place. So he goes to the place and they ended up showing him because of how scared they were. I mean, like, who knows how this man, he showed up.
Yeah.
And then another situation was that he pulled out a gun at a photographer, a New York photographer, because he took us took his picture. So he was like, "Don't take my picture."
So
And
like delete
pulled out a
that
gun,
shit.
and yeah, and threatened him.
Dang.
Yeah. So like you're already starting to see like his kind of controlling energy
Yeah.
and the way he's like, trying to threaten people to make them do as he says,
Yeah.
right? And
Using
that plays
fear.
yeah, and that plays a big part in his whole trial. So yeah, so then there's another moment where he beat an executive with a champagne bottle because he included a scene that he didn't want in the music video. Um, and he was arrested then.
Did
So
he?
yeah, hmm
He
he
beat him with the champagne
did
bottle?
he? Yeah,
Dang.
beat him with the champagne bottle. Almost like he went to the hospital, and he was like, yeah, because he added a scene that he did not want to be included in the music video, which obviously if you don't want to scene in your music video, that's understandable, but you don't gotta beat him, beat him with a champagne bottle and then have him end up in the hospital. But he ended up going to jail for that. um but yeah, so he has no control over his emotions, right? So he has basically anger problems. What do they call?
Anger issues.
That's what it is. Anger issue,
Yeah.
right? So he's just very bipolar. He's just all over the place. Well, this is where Kim Porter comes in. Kim Porter, she had passed away in 2018. And we'll talk about her death, but I do want to say that because she did pass away. And she ended up having 4 kids. He of Diddy's kids, so in total he had 7. But she, whenever they ended up together, she had a kid. She had a son from a previous relationship,
Relationship.
and so did he. So he had a son from his previous relationship, which is first girlfriend back before, and they ended up having 4 kids together.
Mm.
Eventually, he ended up having more kids after that, but also during Kim Porter's relationship. But we'll talk about it. So in September of 2024, supposedly this book came out on Amazon called Kim's Lost Words. Now, this book, Kim Porter had already passed away in 2018.
Mm.
So people were like, okay, why is this supposedly this book is supposed to be her biography of her story? But she passed away in 2018 and it came out in 2024. So who released this book and who wrote it? And so people were starting to read the book. People bought the book because obviously it was weird. And allegedly in that book, allegedly, there was sex encounters with other celebrities. There was stories between her and Diddy of like the beatings, or like the what's it called, the situations that they went through in their relationships. And also in this book, Diddy had asked Kim to put an intimate object in his butt, and she refused, and he beat her. So this is the things that are in this book.
That's
So people are like,
crazy.
okay, who wrote this book? Because how could it be Kim Porter? Kim Porter passed away. So, and then another thing is like Diddy having relationships, with underage celebrities as well. That's also in the book, right? Allegedly, we're not 100% sure if all of this is true in the book, but it was released. So everybody was like, no one knows, who wrote it, who released it. So supposedly Chris Todd published the book.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Todd is a very known, writer. And he published this book because he supposedly received a flash drive from an anonymous person, received it, you know, looked into it and saw all this pictures, videos, all this stuff, right? And he decided to write a book about it because he believes that everything on this flash drive is true.
I wonder if the courthouse has a flash drive.
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, you know, the trial is going on, so maybe if they do have it, they will show it in the trial, and people are going to talk about it. The people that are involved. Which I watched this one girl named Stephanie Sue, and she's in the courthouse. She's in the whole trial, and she's going to every what is it called?
Every hearing.
Every hearing. She's going to every hearing, and so hopefully she talks about that because that would be interesting because then we'll know for sure that this book is real. But we don't know as of right now. So yeah, so he believes that everything in this flash drive was real, so he decided to release it. He thought, okay, well, um these are things that people never knew about Kim Porter, so I want to release her story. So we don't know if he is able to do that, like, because these things could be false. But I mean, it's still out there. I think they might have taken it off, but people still have it. I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah. So that book came out and all those stuff came out, right? About Kim Porter and Diddy. So everybody started rethinking their relationship between Kim Porter and Diddy.
What was it seen as? Was it seen as like a perfect relationship kind of deal?
Yeah, because everybody was like, well, not even perfect because they were on and off
Yeah.
during the time of their relationship. But they still were known as like the couple because of the way they looked. You know how you see those couples and you're like, "Oh my god, like they look so like perfect together." It was like that.
Mm.
It was like everybody just loved them too and they were just in love with them, not necessarily because of their relationship, but because of the way they looked.
Mm-hmm.
And Diddy was very popular and she was very pretty. She was a beautiful model. So it's just, it caught people's eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so, these are during her relationship or during the relationship between Kim and Diddy, you can obviously see his control, his the way he wants to control people,
Mm-hmm.
and how it kind of flows into the relationship with Cassie. So with Kim, he would treat her horribly, horribly. At a party, he had snatched her purse and threw everything on the ground. Her keys, she didn't have keys. Her wallet, her cards, her credit cards, everything. And said, "You have no business being here." And she grabs her stuff. She looks down, she grabs her stuff. He takes her to a car that he called to pick her up. And she ended up just leaving. And so he humiliated her in front of everybody. And everyone saw that. And no one said nothing. No one stood up for her. No one said nothing. And she put her head down and she left. So during the relationship, they were very on and off, like I said. They ended up in the relationship from 1994 to 2007. That's how long their relationship was. Kim ends up pregnant with Christian, but this is also during the time that Diddy started dating J-Lo. So they were very on and off.
He did
He
Jello.
dated J-Lo.
What?
Yeah, J-Lo back then was already really big when Diddy ended up, started dating her. And people were speculating that this relationship was not real. He kind of seemed like, okay, because Kim was a very powerful woman. Kim was like, okay, if you want to go, fine. That's up to you. Go. And Diddy felt like, he has no control over her. So what he tried to do, at least from people what are thinking, why he started dating J-Lo was because he was like, okay, I'm gonna start dating J-Lo. Kim's gonna get jealous and she's gonna beg for me back. Kim didn't know that they were broken up at the time that he ended up with J-Lo. They broke up a little bit later. But she didn't know that they were done. And then she sees on the news that he's with JLo, right? And she's pregnant. So they broke up.
Oh, Kim didn't know that they were broken up.
Yeah, Kim didn't know that they were broken up.
Ah, dang. And then out of nowhere, J Lo is with
And then now she sees Diddy with
what?
JLo on the TV
Yeah.
or wherever,
Oh, okay, I
She
understand that.
sees JLo with Diddy, and then she's like, okay, well, if that's what you want, whatever. But it did make her upset. Obviously, anybody would be upset. During the relationship with JLo, Diddy and JLo, when they were dating, they were known as like the power couple because their relationship, I mean, she was very famous and so was he. So it's like two famous people together. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, this is a power couple. Like this is the best couple." And they were so powerful to where like they would show up to clubs and everybody would be so excited and everybody would show up and all this stuff because Diddy and Jella were there.
Hmm.
So one day they ended up going to this one club, and long story short, there was an altercation and Diddy ended up pulling out a gun and shooting people. He didn't kill anyone, but he did hurt a few people. There was even one lady that he shot, and he shot her right in the nose.
Like
Yeah,
this way or this way?
no, this way. He shot her in the nose.
What
She did not die. She ended up surviving.
the heck?
But she states during this time, because what's it called? She was there, and she sees when he pulls out his gun and he's shooting. She says she sees him shoot at her. And so, but he never got arrested for that. He had one of the biggest attorneys back then. He even represented Michael Jackson, O.J. Simpson, Tupac. So, and his name was Johnny Jr. So that's the guy that represented him for this case. And he was very popular, so he was a really good attorney. And they ended up blaming one of the guys that he had just added into his or signed in under his label, and made it seem like he was the one that was shooting. But that girl came out and was like, no, Diddy shot me. I saw him
When
when he
did she
shot
say
me.
that? Or the day of the case?
After
The case?
she, yeah,
Oh, the surgery and
after,
everything.
yeah, after she woke up, because during that time, obviously, she was like,
Unconscious. It's crazy. How did it hit her nose and it didn't hit her brain?
I don't know, but it's like miraculously she survived.
Is this allegedly or
No, there's a video of her nose literally
no?
like
No,
covered.
no, 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 not
Oh,
that. Is it alleged like that she got shot in the nose by Diddy? Like, is it
well,
proven now?
there's a video of her stating, "I saw Diddy shoot me."
Ah, okay. So it's
So
technically
there's a video
allegedly
out there, yes. So
Diddy
I
did
mean,
it.
allegedly, obviously, because maybe she's probably putting the blame on him
Lying
because
or
yeah, maybe she don't like him. I don't know,
yeah.
but there is a video of her stating that there's no video proof of the shooting of who shot who, but they ended up ruling out that this other guy is the one that did it, and he didn't even do anything. And I'm laughing because I'm like, how the heck
They literally
did they
sentenced him?
even?
Like he's still
Yeah,
in jail kind of deal?
no, he's not in jail anymore. But he was only in jail for a few years. But at the end of the day, it's like,
Still, you go to jail?
and he didn't do nothing.
But he
He was
probably
21 years old. This man was 21 years old, the one that was accused of this,
did he probably
situation.
paid him to take the blame though,
Well,
huh?
Diddy had one of the best,
Allegedly.
yeah, allegedly. But Diddy had one of the best attorneys. And not just that, he was very, very famous and rich. So he could have paid somebody, allegedly, obviously, to be like, okay, can you put the blame on him, not me? Because I can't go to jail,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah. So that's what happens. But during the situation or during the relationships with J-Lo and Diddy, supposedly Diddy would always tell J-Lo to hold his gun in her purse to make it seem like, oh, I have the power because you got my gun in your purse. Something like that.
That's
Hmm.
weird. Doesn't the girl have the power because she got the
No,
gun in
because
her
he
purse?
to scare her. Like, I got a gun. Like, you got my gun.
Mm,
Like, I can use it.
yeah.
I guess showing like,
I guess be my pockets. Like you're my pocket. You're my tool. You're my
I guess
toolbox.
you're like, yeah, like you hold my stuff, like hold
What a
my
guy.
poodle, like from White Chicks, like maybe like that, like I don't know. So
Oh my poodle.
yeah, it's like maybe that's how he tried to see it. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, he would make her hold his gun in
Mm-hmm.
her purse, and that also kind of falls into the relationship with Kim. He would always do that to her and always do that to Cassie to kind
Mm-hmm.
of scare her or scare them, whatever. So yeah, so that's what happened with that case, and that's what happened with the situation that happened at the club. They didn't really last that long, JLo and Diddy. Kim, during the time that he was dating JLo, she ended up with somebody else, and Diddy found out. Now allegedly, he found his hotel room of the guy that she was dating,
Around what
Diddy.
time was this?
This was like around 2020, I mean 2002. Sorry, I'm always
That
here
was a
saying
long
2020.
time ago.
Yeah, this is like early 2000s, or late 90s, around there. But allegedly, um she found, or allegedly he found the hotel room of the guy that Kim was now
Mm-hmm.
involved with, and he came into that hotel room, broke a chair on his head, and threatened to kill him.
Was Diddy strong or what? Why didn't nobody beat his ass?
Everybody was scared of him.
I'll beat the shit out of him. I was gonna die anyways.
No, no, no. Everybody was scared of Diddy because, one, because of the power that he had, two, because he came out of nowhere, and three, it just, I mean, he had already done a few things in the past, and people know that.
Still
Allegedly.
beat the shit out of him.
You know, oh my gosh, allegedly, obviously. But there's a few people that hate him. There's a few people that go against him, and there's a few people that speak against him, and obviously he's threatened them before, but that don't stop them. But the people that he knows who to control. He knows who to go for. He's not dumb. He's not stupid. Like, he knows who he can mess with and who he could
Mm-hmm.
not. With J-Lo, he never abused her. He never messed with her like that.
Porque
With
no se dejaba.
Not even that, J-Lo was already famous.
Mm,
J-Lo did not need Diddy.
mm-hmm.
J-Lo was doing it on her own. Diddy was just using J-Lo for his own, things. But with Kim Porter was nothing without Diddy at that time. Obviously, I'm not saying that she's not this powerful woman,
Yeah,
because she
yeah,
is a
yeah, I know.
powerful woman. Like, she
But
went
it's
through a
just
lot,
a lot of the things why she's
but
came about is because of Diddy.
she got big
And so,
because
like,
of
if Diddy
Diddy.
goes away, then a lot of it goes away. Hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, so Diddy knew who to control. Diddy knew that he can't control J-Lo, but he can control Kim. So yeah, so a lot of things that he did was to people that did not have power in the industry. So Diddy was very jealous of the women that he dates. He is super jealous, super super jealous, right? So it was to the point where he wouldn't allow her to come cut Kim. He wouldn't let her out of the house. He wouldn't let her talk to or have guy friends or even talk to a guy. If he saw that, like, he would go and drag her out, or like go and cuss out the guy. Like, not even knowing the situation, not even knowing the conversation. What if she was trying to network? What if she was trying to do? He doesn't care. You talking to a guy? Mm-mm. You not. You could talk to another girl. Like, you don't have to talk to a guy. Like, it was
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah.
And even when they were broken up, he had even bugged the cameras of her house, of Kim's house, to check on her, to see what she was doing. So that's how he also found out that she was dating somebody else.
He needs Jesus.
Well, yeah. So it was a lot of things like that. that he was just very controlling even in a relationship. And she was also at times found with a broken nose, with bruises. Kim Porter, right? We're talking about Kim Porter. She was found with a broken nose, with bruises. So it it just, kind of, he was just trying to control people. It's
Yeah.
just, it all falls into that. Towards the end of the relationship, Kim Porter was already getting tired of all the mistreatment, right? But also during this time, she ends up pregnant with his twins. So there's twin girls. And she ends up pregnant, but she's like, "Oh my god, like I'm done. Like I don't want to be in this relationship anymore." So she's going back and forth because obviously she's pregnant. But then this is also the time that she finds out, I think like maybe like within 7 months or 5 months of her pregnancy, that Diddy also got someone else pregnant during their relationship, and is like 3 months of their pregnancy.
Dang.
So after she gives birth to her twins,
Yeah.
the other girl ends up giving birth a few months later
Dang.
to Diddy's kid as well. Yeah. So obviously that was like her straw, and she was like, "I'm done," and so she packs her stuff and she leaves,
Around what
and she
time?
does not come back. This was in 2007, right?
Okay.
So he gets that girl pregnant. Her name was Sarah Chapman. That's the girl that got pregnant, and she was the one that was pregnant with Chance Combs, which is the daughter of Diddy, and she was born 5 to 6 months before the twins was born. I'm sorry, I said after, before the
Dang.
twins was born. So she gave birth first, and then the twins, and then Kim Porter gave birth to the
Ah,
twins.
okay.
Yeah,
So she the okay, okay.
yeah. So yeah, so she packed her bags and she left, and she never came back, right? But she comes back into the story, obviously. Diddy was not easy to touch. Diddy was a person, like I said, nobody would go against him. Nobody would threaten him. Nobody would do anything to Diddy because Diddy had the power, and everybody was scared of Diddy, right? He would get away with anything and everything that he wanted to do. And for him, no was never an answer, right? So on November 15th, 2018, Kim was found dead, right? So the way she was found dead was that her goddaughter found her in her bed at around 8:30 a.m. and she assumed she was sleeping, but she
She was
wasn't.
dead.
She was already dead. So she called the ambulance, they came, and she was already pronounced dead on the scene. Um she had already felt sick weeks before prior.
Weeks?
hmm She had symptoms of like the flu and pneumonia. So she ended up taking like vitamins and medications, but nothing was really helping her. Like she was just feeling really sick. She wasn't really old. She was probably like in her early 50s. So she wasn't to the point, or late 40s. She wasn't to the point where it was like natural, or like even pneumonia. Like there's yeah, obviously there can be a point to where pneumonia can't kill you, but it's not common. Like it's not something that you can if you have pneumonia you can die. Like no, it's not nothing like that.
And a leading cause of death.
Yeah, it's not.
That's what they
So,
labeled it as?
huh?
That's what they labeled it as? Or what?
They labeled it as natural.
Natural?
hmm But I'll talk about that in a bit. But she had like mild streaks of blood when she would be coughing, but it wasn't something that like it kept going. It was like maybe like once or twice. So she wasn't very concerned at that point. But Diddy supposedly he had came out when Kim Porter had already passed. Diddy came out and stated that she told him a couple of days before she passed away to take care of her kids. So he's insinuating that Kim already knew that she was going to pass, right? And so, yeah. So the cause of death, like I said, was considered natural. But if she had pneumonia, because natural to them, I guess, meant like you there were issues or she was sick because of
Health
her
issues,
age,
basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
health issues, and the pneumonia was possibly what was causing it and why she had passed, right? Well, the conspiracy between, Kim's death and Diddy, there was these. So I don't know if you know, but if you inhale too much of the baby oil, it can cause pneumonia. So you know how there's this situation with Diddy and baby oil? I don't know if you ever heard about
Mm-mm.
that. We'll talk about that later on in the end of this part one, more so in part two. But baby oil was something that he would use a lot in his freak offs.
Yeah.
So, supposedly, allegedly, I'm not 100% sure, but allegedly, if you are inhaling too much of baby oil, it can cause pneumonia. But also, if you drink baby oil, it can cause pneumonia.
More than smelling it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, you cannot drink baby oil at all, right? This is allegedly, right? But for sure, you cannot drink baby oil. So, to this day, her phone is not found. So nobody has found her phone. Why? Like, I don't know how, but nobody can find her phone, nor her tablet, nor her computer. And people don't believe that she was naturally that she died in natural causes. So they want people to reopen the case, but nobody. It's not gonna reopen. Why? Because it's Diddy. Diddy has the power to make a case not be reopened, especially because allegedly he could be involved in it. So that's
I
the
wonder how you
situation
get that
between.
power. Like, who do you have to know to not to be above the law?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I don't think that no matter how powerful or no matter how rich you are, no matter how famous you are, I don't think that you should have the power to even do anything that is against the law. Like,
Yeah, there's
you're
like
going against the law.
foundations.
I'm sorry, you're a human being too, you know?
Yeah, it has to be just. That's what the law is for
Exactly.
justice.
So, allegedly, obviously, we're not 100% sure, but there's been cases where, people have been ruled off because, or, paid so much money because they're so rich and they don't pay their consequences. Um, but we don't know. People do say, people that were in Kim's life do say that he had to have an involvement with her death because how is that even possible? So they're thinking that the reasoning to why he would want to, I guess,
Kill her,
allegedly kill her
allegedly.
is because she had a lot of information of him. He stated that Kim Porter was the closest anybody has ever been to him and knows so much about him. And also, I guess he started realizing how much he didn't have the control that he had on her anymore and how powerful she was getting individually, like as her own. Um, and I think that he probably felt like maybe she was gonna release something. So then we go back to the book, Who did she actually write that book? Did somebody actually found the information and then ended up writing it and releasing it for
Yeah, how
her?
did somebody get that
You know,
flash drive?
I don't know. So there's a bunch of things, right? But that is all alleged. We're not 100% sure. Now these patterns kind of follow the relationship between Diddy and Cassie. Cassie was the girl that was seen on that video that went viral, right? In a hotel where he she was running to the elevator, and you see him running with his towel out of the room, and he's running towards the elevators, and he sees Cassie, and he pulls her by the hair, and then drops her to the ground and starts kicking her and beating her. And it's a very gruesome video, but we obviously could see the relationship between them two and how it became to be and the control that he had with Cassie. So Cassie, they met in 2006. Cassie, he ended up hearing her song on like I think it was a radio, or he had I know he went to a party and he had heard her song, and he was like, "Who is that?" And he fell in love with her music, and so he was like, I have to sign her. So he ended up signing her to a label. So this was a year before he broke it off with Kim, when
Mm-hmm.
he met Cassie. When he signed Cassie in 2006, in 2000, well, 2007 is when he signed her. In 2007, she was signed and she was 19 years old at that
Wow.
time,
Yeah.
when she was signed to Diddy's label, which is Bad Boy Records at that time. And Diddy was 37 years old, right? So she releases an album once she's, signed into
37, 97. That's 20 years apart, right?
97.
I mean,
19 and 37.
19 to 37. That's 20 years.
Yeah. Well,
Almost 20.
almost 20.
Yeah, like 18.
Yeah. So when she was signed to the label, she releases an album. She debuts number 4 in Billboard 200 in the US. Diddy has Cassie perform with him at the MTV Europe Music Awards in Denmark,
What
right?
year?
Huh?
Roughly what year?
Roughly around 2007. So she kind of has him. They go to this event, this award, um, music awards,
Ceremony.
sorry,
Is it a
and they
ceremony?
perform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a music awards. It's a
Mm-hmm.
music award,
Mm-hmm.
and they perform, and backstage, she's really excited. She's super because she's super new into the industry,
Yeah.
and she's really excited that she gets to perform with Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
She's just now starting, and she's now getting to the top
Yeah.
already, right? And Diddy invited her to perform with him. And so she's getting her hair done backstage before they perform, and she's getting her hair and makeup done. And the makeup artist that's doing her makeup, she goes, "Diddy is interested in you." And obviously to her it's kind of weird, because she's like, i'm
19.
i'm 19 and he's 37. What do you mean he's interested in me? Also, during that time, this is what's it called, uh Diddy and Kim Porter were not broken up yet. So during that time, they were both in a relationship, because she was also in a relationship with the producer, Cassie.
Oh, the new girl.
Cassie was in a relationship at that time, and so was Diddy.
Yeah.
So she's like, "This is weird. Like, we're both in a relationship. Why is he interested in me?" So, uh, Diddy, when he wants somebody or something, he's gonna find a way to get it, and there's no way to stop him. So they became a couple. He broke it off. They ended up breaking it off with Kim. He did not go seek her anymore when she left, and after that, um, she ended up in a relationship, or he ended up in a relationship with Cassie. So they were also very on and off in their relationship, and it was always a bit rocky. Okay. During this, their relationship, in the beginning, it was so I'm gonna so she has a lawsuit against him. I'm gonna talk about that lawsuit a little bit later. I'm not gonna talk about it now. I'm gonna talk about it when we talk about the trials, because we're gonna get into the trials as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but during the beginning, she was feeling very excited at the fact that Diddy wanted her,
Like that.
but at first it was not something that she was seeking or wanted. She never thought of Diddy like that. She never seen him like that. So for her, it was like really weird. And she was kind of forced into this relationship.
Hmm.
It was always on and off with them two, but everybody loved them together. Like just like Kim Porter and Diddy, because Cassie was this beautiful girl and Diddy was this powerful man. You know.
They like them together.
Hmm. Not so much of the relationship, but more
Yeah,
because of the way
they're
they looked.
powerful. Yeah,
Hmm. So they were like a powerful couple.
yeah.
And so on a break, they ended up on a break during their relationship, and Cassie ends up being with Kid Cudi
Mm.
during this time. And Diddy finds out. Kid Cudi ended up sending her an email. I guess emails back then obviously were very popular. He finds this email, right? Diddy finds this email. And this is already when they're back together, Cassie and Diddy. And he finds out that she was with Kid Cudi when they were on the break. And he gets very jealous, like even though like they were on a break, he's gonna get really jealous. So he tells her, I'm gonna blow up his car. And obviously she's not thinking anything of it, because how you gonna blow up somebody's car just because I was, we were on a break and I was talking to him. Like, you're gonna blow up somebody's car for that? So on January 9th, 2012, Kid Cudi's car blows up in his driveway. Mhm.
That's crazy.
Police never finds out who did it, but now we know, you know.
Yeah.
So at
How
that time,
did we find out? Did she come out and say it?
hmm?
She came out and said
In the
that.
lawsuit, it's involved in the lawsuit. It's written in the lawsuit that she put out against Diddy. Hmm. So at that time, nobody knew, who it was, but now we know that he ended up blowing up Kid Cudi's car, all because Cassie was talking to him
Yeah,
during their break. Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
he's crazy. He's
Yeah,
it's a little bit cuckoo.
yeah.
Like I don't know. He was
He
just
needs to be
very
put in
jealous.
jail. He needs
Well,
to be put in a
that's where they're
hole.
trying to. That's what we're trying to
I
do.
think the death sentence is about to start.
No, baby, no. That's no. But
Hey,
I
no
mean,
cap though. Like this
yes.
is a
Well,
dangerous
yes.
like
It's a lot
El
of things that he did.
Diablo.
But I can't say that I want to put somebody in death row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no
It's
cap.
still
We're
like,
playing God.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's still like crazy to want to put somebody in death row and just have them be killed.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, we don't need people like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'm not
He
gonna say
needs
it,
to
but
have a
if it happens, it happens. You know what
rehabilitation
I mean?
program. That's what jail's supposed to be. A rehabilitation,
Yeah,
facility.
yeah. So everyone witnessed him yelling at Cassie. Everyone witnessed him, treating Cassie like she was garbage, basically. So everyone knew that Diddy was not normal. That he was not a person that you wanted to mess with. And so Cassie states in her lawsuit that that basically this lawsuit was filed in 2023, and she states that she never consented to any of their relationship, to the start off of the relationship. Like I said, consent was not a thing with Diddy. He didn't care. Like I said, he did not care if you said no to him. No does not exist, you know. So she did not consent to anything that with Diddy, so it seems, right? But when I started getting into the trial, and like I said, I'm going to talk about this in part, how whatever, but I'm going to talk about her lawsuit, and they're already in trial, and they already kind of asked her questions in the hearing, and there are messages where she kind of stated like, I want to have a freak off, or I want to do this with you before you leave, and stuff like that.
I mean, those are temptations, though.
But I think that has to do because they're kind of using that against her. And like I said, I'll talk about more about this situation, the trial later on. But I just want to bring that up. It's like they're using that against her in a way to make it seem like she did agree to everything. But I think she had no choice. And I think she was just she was saying those things because She wanted to feel accepted. She wanted to feel loved by Diddy. And that was the only way. That was the only way that she could feel wanted by Diddy. Because every other time he would just beat her and yell at her, you know? And that was the only time that she actually felt intimate with him. So,
That
I
must
mean,
suck.
yeah. So that's what I think. But right now, we at this point, before everything that came out, or before the trial, consent was not a thing with Diddy when it came with Cassie, right? I mean, sorry, she would not consent to anything that he wanted. We'll look into her trial, and I mean the lawsuit and the trial, and we'll talk more about that. So during the relationship, she got introduced to a lot of things, right? She got introduced to drugs. So he would make her take a bunch of drugs. From as we hear, I mean, as we see in the lawsuit, that's what she states, right? Um, he would make her take a lot of drugs. She was abused so much in the relationship that at one point she had to get an MRI, because she was
Beaten.
beaten so badly. And what's crazy is that these results wouldn't even go to her. They would go to Diddy. They would have all like the information, all the stuff, which is crazy because she's not married to him. She was never married to him. I know that your husband can have the information. Like when you go to the hospital, if you were my husband, my results could go to you. And I mean, there's no question to ask. It can go to you with no explanation. But they're not married, so she had to either consent to the fact that he can have the results, or he probably paid somebody to have them send the results to him. So when she would have these MRIs, I mean, she didn't have the ability to be like, this is my proof, or somebody saved me. So because he had all the paperwork, he had everything. So, um, so yeah. And this also ended her, I mean, also had her having a lot of, like, she had a lot of bruises on her. So a lot of people, whenever they would see her in like pictures with her in Diddy, out in public, she would have bruises on the leg, or like a bunch of bruises on her leg. But it was like kind of, it looked like they put makeup on it to hide it or something, but they were still shown on her legs or on her hands or something like that.
That's wild.
Yeah. So staff and employees of his company, of his label, they witnessed these beatings, and they would not say anything. They wouldn't speak up. They wouldn't go and try to help her. Nothing like that, right? There was this one bodyguard that he had that did state that Diddy didn't do anything in front of him, because he knew that if he saw him beat Cassie, he's gonna report him. He's like, I don't care. He knew who he can do it
Do it
with
around.
and do it around with. So he for sure did not do it around him at all. Didn't speak,
And
because
he's
there was
just
once,
security guard. He's
he's just a
not somebody with
bodyguard. But
power or anything.
he's involved with the FBI. He's
Oh,
involved with or the cops.
yeah.
Um so he obviously knew that this guy, because there was one time where he had yelled at, I believe, at Cassie, and he spoke up. He was like, "You don't." No, no, his mom. It was mom, because he has a weird relationship with his mom, Diddy, and his mom. They have a really weird relationship, but he would yell at her like nothing, like tell her to shut up or whatever. And there was this time where he yelled at her, Diddy yelled at his mom, and the guy, the bodyguard, was like, "You don't yell at your mom. You don't do that."
Yeah, as an older person.
And so and obviously that's when Diddy realized, oh shoot, I can't do this in front of him, because he definitely is gonna say something,
Yeah.
and the other ones wouldn't. Nobody else would, but he's the only one that would speak up. So he does state in an interview, he was like, yeah, Diddy knew not to do that in front of me, so I never saw it. So
I
he
want to
knew if
see
I
that
saw it,
interview.
yeah. There's a little clip.
But if she come out and she's in distress and he's trying to do something, I'm going to do something about it. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Because you're not taking my pension away. You're not, because, You know what I do for a living. You're not putting me in a situation where I gotta explain to a tribunal of what went down and what happened and why I let it happen. Nah, we're not doing that.
Like I said, nobody else would speak up. So there was once where she had like two black eyes, a busted lip, and a cut on her forehead. And there's a picture of her
Poor
with that.
her.
And nobody would say anything. Nobody knew.
What?
But when she had these bruises, when she had all this, like, you know, if it was that bad, he would hide her. So you wouldn't see her in public. So nobody really saw her. Like, you know how they're famous. They're famous. There's going to be paparazzis. They're going to be going to like an event and there's going to be people, you know, taking pictures. He knew that he could not have her out when she was that badly
Poor
beaten.
girl, man.
So he would keep her inside and she would not leave until she is basically cured. So it just shows how, you know, messed up in the head he is. And also at that time when he would hide her, he would like shower her with gifts, trying to convince her like, don't leave. Like, you ain't gonna go anywhere. So here's a little gift for you. Sorry I beat you, you know. That's what he would do. So obviously Cassie was very manipulated. And she didn't know who else to, you know, reach out to because nobody would speak up. Nobody would say anything. And she knew that everybody was afraid of Diddy. And she knew that if she would speak up, Diddy would go and find her and beat her.
Dang.
So we're going to get into his controlling energy between them two and how he starts kind of, we kind of going to get into the freak offs a little bit in this topic, but his controlling energy, at a party, Diddy saw Cassie speaking to another man, and it was about work. This was in her lawsuit, and he pulls her away, and he takes her to the other room because it was in a hotel room. It was for his her. Believe it was for her birthday or his birthday. Not very sure, but it was one of their birthdays, and it was a birthday party, but it was in a hotel room. And she was speaking to somebody else, some other man. It was supposedly about work. So she was trying to network. She was trying to talk to people. And he sees that. Diddy sees that. And he pulls Cassie into the other room. And he just beats her. He starts yelling at her and beating her. And she's running from corner to corner. But nobody can hear it because the music is so loud. Nobody knows what's going on. And
You're getting into fight classes, okay?
Okay. And eventually, she ends up at the toilet, and she's basically hiding next to the toilet, and he's like stomping at her, allegedly, stomping on her, and yeah, so that's how basically it ended. That's what the lawsuit says. I mean, yeah, the lawsuit that she filed. That's what it says. So there was also another time where she basically, so she was very isolated. She wasn't allowed to have any friends, and Diddy decided one time, well, this is why she wasn't allowed to have any friends, and nobody really wanted to be her friend, sadly, um because Diddy one time decided to dangle her friend outside of the balcony, hold her
friend,
yeah, because of some altercation, because she didn't do something he didn't want to do,
to him or something.
yeah, and he dangles her. I think it was from the 17th floor of the balcony. I think it was around there. I think it was in the teens. And he holds her above the balcony, and
how was
that's
this
how he
figured
threatens
out?
her, because it's in the lawsuit.
Dang.
And the friend also speaks about it. So a lot of people, I mean, nobody wanted to get near Cassie. Nobody wanted to get near Diddy because he was not normal, right? So yeah. So another time, another party, Cassie was networking and speaking to, you know, people in the music industry, guys in the music industry, and her hopes of growing in her career. Diddy finds out, and he gets so mad. He drags her out of the party into a car, beating her, allegedly, and starts stomping on her face. And when they get to the house, Cassie tries to make a run for it, and he grabs her and pulls her from the hair and starts beating her again. So that's another story, right? Another time is there's a clip, and this is a video. I'm not sure if it's out there publicly, but somebody was able to retrieve it, and it was a video. He was taking this video. Diddy was taking the video, and it's a clip of Diddy towering over Cassie, and you can see Cassie under a blanket, and she's like hiding.
What you got to say now? What you got to say now? You ain't got shit to say. When you put your girl on the snap,
It shows like, you know, how scared Cassie is of Diddy, because Cassie's hiding under a blanket, trying anything to hide, because obviously under a
Poor
blanket,
girl.
nothing, he can still hit her, but just the thought that she's just trying to hide,
She's
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah. So that's one video. And then there was another time where Tiffany Red. So Tiffany Red is a songwriter and a musician. She wrote the lyrics for Cassie. She kind of helped Cassie write a few lyrics from her song. And there's a song called Loyal by Cassie. And in these lyrics, it basically states, I don't know what is real. I just know how I feel. And you keep acting like you don't know what you did wrong. Trying to get me to chill since we ain't been together. I've been on some whatever. Right? So those are the lyrics that Tiffany helped Cassie write in her song named Loyal. Diddy did not like this song. Diddy did not like the fact that she was singing those words, that Cassie was singing those words. Because, I mean, if anybody that gets mad at the fact that she's singing those words, it's because he knows it's true. He knows that, he's doing something wrong. Why else would you get mad? So he gets mad. And Tiffany, after the song was released, was kind of being interrogated by Diddy and Diddy's workers, and basically she stated in a settlement, in a statement, she written in the statement that Diddy went up to her and was like, "Oh, so you're the girl that's writing these lyrics?" And then the worker was like, "Also, so you're Tiffany." That's who,
He didn't know her before? Or what?
No, he's never met her in person, but he knew who was writing the lyrics. He knew it was her.
Yeah, but he met her.
But he met her that day, and it was at a party. And so, yeah, so she felt like, interrogated, because now, like, people are coming up to her, his workers, himself, Diddy, is coming up to her and be like, "Oh, so you're the one that's writing the lyrics. Well, what does that mean? Like, why you have to,
Right that.
Exactly." So there was one time that day when when they're interrogating her, Diddy and his workers, and Tiffany, they go to a karaoke bar, and it's called I think it's called Blind Dragon, something like that. Tiffany and Cassie were with friends at the time. Diddy didn't like this and made it hard for her to leave, for Cassie to leave, but she still went. So Cassie, this was her birthday. At that party, Diddy met Tiffany, and that was Cassie's birthday party. And Cassie ended up wanting to go to a karaoke bar with her friends. So, and Tiffany was also invited. And so they go, but, like I said, Diddy didn't like the fact that Cassie had freedom, didn't like the fact that she had friends. So he obviously made it hard for Cassie to leave. But Cassie ends up going anyways, right? And he gets so mad, he's like, he follows them. So he gets his people, and he goes and follows them to the karaoke bar. As soon as Cassie and her friends get there, and Tiffany, as soon as they get to the karaoke bar, Diddy get there like not too long after, and he goes and grabs Cassie, pulls her to the side, and corners her. And you know, she's right here. This is Diddy, and this is Diddy's workers, so his people. So he's cornering her, so she can't run anywhere, and he's just yelling at her and saying all this stuff. So Tiffany states this in her statement, right? Because Tiffany is there as well, and she sees all of this, and and yeah, so that's what happens. So he ends up telling Cassie, "You're coming with me. You're not gonna stay here." So the party was over, so they're not gonna be at the karaoke bar anymore. So Cassie goes to her friends and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go with Diddy, but you guys wait at my apartment. I'll be there later." Um, so obviously they're all like, "What the heck?" But
Mm-hmm.
most of the girls are like, "Okay, whatever." Because it seemed like they were used to this. So it seemed like this situation always happened. So they were like, okay. So they leave, but Tiffany was like, "What do you mean? Like, what the heck?" So
Tiffany's the writer, right?
Tiffany, yeah, she's the
Mm-hmm.
writer. So yeah, so she's like, "What the heck?" And so Tiffany, you know, doesn't want to leave her alone, and because she knew that Diddy was gonna abuse her because she knows the story. So Cassie and Tiffany were so close that Cassie would tell her the things that would go on with her and Diddy, like the beatings. So she knew all of this. She knew that he would beat her and all this stuff, and obviously she sees it now. So she doesn't want her to be alone with him. So they go to the apartment to pack her bags because, you know, she's going to go with Diddy, but she's going to eventually come back.
Mm-hmm.
So they start packing her bags. Tiffany's like asking, "Why are you packing her bags if she doesn't want to go?" Because Cassie does not want to go. She starts saying, "I don't want to go with him. I don't want to go." And Tiffany is like, "Well, don't go." And the friends, you know, start packing Cassie's bag, like if she's going to go. And Tiffany is asking the friends, like, "Why are you packing her bag? She doesn't want to go." And the friends respond, "She always goes." So it's like if this was an ongoing thing, like this is always happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiffany, I guess, never witnessed this. And this was the very first time, right? And she ends up going. Cassie ends up leaving with Diddy. And then the friends were like, "They will be back. Watch." Like, she's gonna go. She's gonna come back. It's whatever.
Like to the karaoke.
No, no, no. The friends. So, no, they're already at the hotel at
Oh,
Cassie's
at the
hotel.
apartment, yeah.
Yeah, at the apartment. The friends tell the other friends of Cassie tells Tiffany, she'll be back. Just watch. She's gonna come back. Like saying like because supposedly she's packing her bags to go stay with Diddy and she's not gonna be back to the hotel, but she ends up coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if it was like a routine. Like she does this all the
They'll
time. Like this
argue
happens.
at his place and then she'll come back.
Like Diddy will be like, "Come with me. You're gonna stay with me." And so she'll pack her bags and then she'll go. But then he eventually brings her back for whatever reason to her hotel. I
That's
mean, to her
weird.
hotel, to her apartment.
Sounds like there's a lot of unknown, you know?
Yeah. So it's a lot of weird things, but that's what Tiffany states in her statement. And allegedly that night, Cassie told Tiffany that they ended up having a freak off. So
Did he?
Diddy and Cassie.
That night at the apartment?
So
So
let me
she went to
explain.
go do a freak
So
off?
no, no. So let me explain. So Cassie ends up leaving with Diddy.
Uh-huh.
The way I heard the story was a little bit confusing to me, but I'm gonna explain it the way I heard it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna see, or we're gonna connect the two. But
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah, yeah.
so basically, um, Cassie ends up going with Diddy, right?
Yeah.
And then she ends up coming back. Later that night, Diddy comes and he goes to the apartment and it seems like he's all drunk or whatever, basically calling for Tiffany. So he's calling for Tiffany and Tiffany comes and she's just like,
What
what's
do you
going
want?
on? Because everybody's asleep. You know, this is early in the morning. Everybody's asleep. And he's like, tell that little B word that I came here to basically have sex.
With Tiffany?
No, no, no.
With
It's
Kate?
Cassie. Cassie's already home.
Yeah.
And that's what he's telling Tiffany. Tell that B word that I'm trying to F
Yeah.
trying to have sex,
Yeah.
basically. And she's like, no, she's asleep. Like, she doesn't want to. And he was like, I don't care. She's gonna get this big black, penis. And she's just like, what the heck? And he eventually he gets Cassie. He takes her, and they ended up, leaving. And long story short, they ended up having a freak off that night. So
Wait, freak off? What does freak off mean?
this is where I'm going to explain the word freak off and what it means to Diddy, and how it kind of changes from, the situation that the freak offs between him and Cassie, and also the freak offs in parties. Okay. So freak offs, these started happening a few months with dating Cassie. Between them two, the freak offs started happening a few months of dating Cassie and Diddy. So he stated that he wanted to experience something called voyeurism. Okay. So this basically means sex interest in or practice of watching others engage in intimate behaviors. So watching your significant other engage in intimate behaviors with somebody else.
You see, that's why pornography is terrible.
Yeah.
That's what it probably derives from.
I don't know. But that's what he wanted to experience, right? So he said it would turn him on if he saw her with another quote unquote dick.
What?
That's what he was saying, right? And so the very first time and they ended up having a freak off.
That's what it's
Quote
called then.
unquote. That's
Yeah.
what he just said that he wanted to see her having sex with somebody else. But eventually he ended up coming up with the word freak off, right? And so yeah, so the very first time that he ended up having her, in this freak off, he hires a man to come to his house and forces Cassie and the man and himself to wear a masquerade masks.
What is that?
Masquerade masks.
The little
It's
thing that are here.
Well, no. A masquerade mask is like, you never seen like a masquerade ball,
Yeah, it's
and
the
they wear
little
like
with the
masks.
little.
Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
they were forced, but these like not. You don't hold it.
yeah,
You kind of put it on.
yeah.
So he would have them wear the masks and himself as well, and they would take drugs, and sitting. So basically, he's sitting the whole entire time. So let's say he's at a chair, like that chair over there, right there, and the man that he hired and Cassie are on the bed, and he's basically telling them what to do while they're having, intimate relationships, Cassie and this random man. And he's over there in the corner, basically masturbating while he's watching them do it, and also instructing them what to do.
What type of?
Yeah. So that's according to the lawsuit. Obviously, that supposedly lasted multiple days.
What? That little situation?
Yes.
Multiple days?
Yes. So supposedly freak offs will last up to hours or days. There was a freak off that lasted, I think it was 72 hours. But we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that in part 2. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about freak offs because it does involve Cassie. It's not really 100% sure if that was when he started calling them freak offs, or even if like that's what he considers a freak off, because there's like things that happen in parties too that were considered freak offs. So it's like the word was just used all the
Probably,
time.
maybe.
You
Like
know?
me thinking, right? Maybe a freak off is like whatever he wants to see.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah.
he wants. Maybe that's a freak off. You know, vulnerism or whatever is a freak off. And then maybe like orgies might be a freak off for him. It's just whatever
Maybe.
he desires sexually.
Yeah.
besides just regular ordinary, you know?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, possibly that could be it, but like I said, these were considered freak offs to him. I'm not 100% sure this is when it started, or when the word was, introduced, but this was considered a freak off to him. The situation that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He randomly would call Cassie for a freak off. He would just be like, "Hey, I'm ready for a freak off. We're gonna do it tonight. No questions asked. You come and do a freak off." So that's how he would, basically insinuate it. He would even make her coordinate it. So he would make her look for the location, hire the male sex worker.
So she got to choose who she wanted to be with?
No, he requested for large black penises. Don't laugh.
What type of...
It's sad because Cassie has to go through this. So I mean,
Oh,
it's
yes.
funny at the fact that
why
would Diddy even think of those things?
It's because I'm not even like laughing at like that she has to go through that. I'm laughing at the fact like this dude's weird.
Yeah.
That's
like what I'm saying. That's funny at the fact that Diddy is asking
it's not even
for
like
these things.
funny. It's like
weird. Yeah,
yeah.
It's weird that Diddy has to. Why would he ask for specifically that? But he would request that according to the lawsuit, right? According to Cassie's lawsuit, he would request that, and Cassie was, forced to basically coordinate these things.
Now you got me thinking about like her feelings, how she feels now.
Yeah.
She probably felt like terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, she did.
Because he literally sex trafficked her.
Yes. Yes.
That's literally sex trafficking.
Yes.
Not allegedly, like literally.
Yeah. Yeah, so and then
no, he's gonna get because then there's paper trails of like hiring those people.
Well, we're gonna get into that later on. But he allegedly uses another name to do all this stuff. So
but they can test
we don't know 100% sure. He doesn't go to get those people, or he doesn't go to talk to those people. He has people talk for them, and he has a name to use for all these things. So there's probably going to be things that they're not going to be able to track. But we'll get into that.
Good detective on this.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. Okay. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the freak offs and how it involved Cassie, right?
Part 2 is gonna be good.
Yeah. So he would make her wear white nail polish. So that was his thing. Every girl that he was with, even in parties or anything, he loved white nail polish. So she always had white nail polish, white nails, always, feet, toes, and fingernails. So his assistants would also help set up these freak offs. So this is what I was saying, where he would use other people to basically do his work. So he would basically have his assistants go to the hotel, ask, book the room, put it under a certain name. It's not Diddy's name, just another name. And they would go before Diddy would get there, and Cassie, and the sex worker, before they would get there, his assistants would go and have the baby ready. The room ready, but the baby oil and allegedly drugs, and they would have it all ready for him. Baby oil and lubricant. And they have it all ready for him there. So that when he goes, he could just basically start.
And this is the trial that's going on?
This involves
Is
there all of that.
More other things?
Mm-hmm.
So there's other people, including her, that are...
Mm-hmm.
So there's multiple.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I want to hear part 2.
It's not going to be in part 2. That's probably going to be a little bit later. But in part 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the freak offs and basically why he's being sentenced. But we're getting a little too far. So let me finish this off. But after these freak offs, they will also get IV fluid to recover from all the drug usage. That's how much drug drugs they would take, allegedly, obviously. But they would have like IV fluid the next day after the freak offs. This became a very often and sometimes happening once a week, the freak offs with Cassie. So he eventually, it would be like once in a blue moon or once in a month or stuff like that. But then it eventually got to where it would be once a week or every other day and stuff like that for Cassie and Diddy, the freak offs. And sometimes he would just beat her in front of the sex workers. Sometimes it wasn't even like intimate, just them having sex. It was just sometimes he would just beat her in front of them, in front of the sex workers, just for whatever reason. He would pay the sex workers cash. The sex workers would walk away with that much money, depending on what they did and stuff like that. So he would also present her with a present during these freak offs. So he would be like, here's this Louis Vuitton watch, or here's this Louis Vuitton purse, just for a present during the freak offs. I don't know why he would do that, but she wrote this in her lawsuit that she would get these presents. And he would record these moments with Cassie, these freak offs. So this was an ongoing thing. This was something that he just felt. It became his basically his lifestyle, the freak offs. And it became something that he would do all the time. It even got to the point where he would introduce this freak offs into parties. Well, it was already going on while he was with Cassie. So these freak offs were not just with
What about
Cassie.
Kim?
With Kim Porter, she was also involved. But there's not enough information with her just because of the fact that she never spoke up beforehand. All we know is that book that came out. And in that book, it does speak a little bit about the freak offs and in her and what he would do with her too. But this became more intense with Cassie. This got to this experience with Cassie. But the freak offs at the parties, and we're going to talk about this in part 2, he would basically have orgies with people. These were considered freak offs to him as well. And it would even get to the point where he would even have intercourse with underage girls and boys. And there's even videos and clips or even an audio clip that came out of him having intercourse with a male celebrity, a very known male celebrity, and we'll get into that and who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an audio of all of that. And yeah, so a lot of people were like, that's why they say no Diddy, because of the situation that would happen in the parties. And because people were not allowed to say no to Diddy. If he wanted you, he'll get
I
you.
don't think that's why they say no Diddy though.
Because he would have sex with Mel.
Oh yeah, that's
Yes,
why they say
that's
no
why they
Diddy.
said no Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I meant about the guy that the
Mm-hmm.
audio. So yes, that's what they would say no Diddy, and that's how it came about. But that's a little bit about the freak offs with Cassie. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it and what really went down. And also the sex worker in the very beginning that we talked about, that scene with that guy that they arrested, he ends up being in the trial, and he speaks about, his involvement, and he is one of the sex workers. He was one of the ones that had sex with Cassie, and that he would, be involved in these freak offs. He was one of them.
Mm-hmm. He's done. Diddy's done.
Yeah. So this is part 1. In part 2, we're going to go more in depth into the freak offs between Cassie and then also in the parties. In his he called it white parties. We're going to go more into that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that is a big part of why he's in trial right now. And all the things that he would do to these underage people, underage, kids, basically, and all the times that he would basically rape these girls and these men without their consent, and his involvement with all of that, and what has to do, why we bring up baby oil, because he ends up having thousands, they end up having thousands of they take thousands of baby oil from his house, literally like 1,000 baby oils in his cabinets,
Like
baby oils bottles. Yeah,
what?
they recover all of that. We'll talk about that in part 2, but this is part 1 of the Diddy's case. I hope you enjoyed
That was a
listening
lot.
to that, because that was a little bit intense, but it's gonna get a lot with Diddy researching it is crazy. I'm not gonna get too in depth into everything, just because of how much information there is out there about Diddy. If I get into depth of like Diddy's situation of everything, then we're gonna have 20 part series, because it's a lot. So I'm trying to shorten it up to like max 5 or 6, but well, yeah.
Parts?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's
Dang.
a lot. So this Diddy's case is gonna be something that we're gonna talk about a little bit
Have
more than
videos in
everything.
between, of different topics.
No, we're gonna talk about it this is gonna be part
Ongoing?
1. Yes, ongoing, because this is the case is going on right now with the hearings and the trials and everything. So I want to get as much information out there as possible, and basically update. Yeah. So so this is part 1 of the Diddy's case. Many more to come. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Well, if you guys have any comments about anything that you heard, anything you want us to research about, anything you're curious about with the Diddy case, let us know and we'll talk about it in the next episode. Leave a like, comment, subscribe,
and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.